All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have very special presenters coming along. Dr. Stuart Blakey. Dr. Stuart Blakey is a licensed doctor of chiropractic. He has a very successful practice for over 30 years, utilizing many powerful physical bodywork techniques along with deep, powerful, neuromental, spiritual techniques for balancing homeostasis on all levels. Stuart's lifestyle practice includes yoga, living food nutrition, and deep organ and tissue cleansing. He is certified in the field of live blood cell analysis, and this is important. Listen to this, very important. He has analyzed, and for those of you who are talking right now and can't hear this, you want to hear this because this is so important, because you want to know this about this particular person. He is a person that's analyzed thousands and thousands, and how many? Thousands of people's blood. He's seen their blood firsthand. He sees how the food affects their blood. He sees how grounding affects their blood. He was blown away actually the other night when he saw the difference in the blood. He couldn't believe something like grounding would have had such a dramatic effect. But he has examined thousands of people's blood, which means he has a very direct downline and expertise into this area. When he's looking at your blood, he's seeing things that other people do not notice. Stuart also coaches clients all over the world through cleansing, positive lifestyle changes, and longevity practices and principles. Kim Soul, his beautiful wife. Anybody do the yoga this morning? How was it? Unbelievable. Isn't she amazing? Anybody not do the yoga and wish they did? Maybe the next time. Kim is a health educator, colon hydrotherapist, and a master yoga teacher. She specializes in lifestyle changes through yoga, cleansing, and living foods. Her lifestyle practices include 100% living foods nutrition, yoga, deep tissue and organ cleansing for more than a decade. Kim has 25 years of experience teaching in the movement and arts and 10 years of teaching yoga on retreats with David Wolfe. Together they created an amazing yoga DVD called Raw Yoga. She teaches heart-centered yoga practice to promote vibrant health and well-being. She's the co-creator of Love Your Liver, creating optimal health through liver cleansing and detoxification. Ladies and gentlemen, these are two of my favorite people in the whole world. They are amazing, not just in what they do, but their lifestyle is a perfect example of what we should all aspire to be. Kim Soul and Stuart Blakey, come on up here! Woo! Let's get G-Clap going! Thanks so much. So great to have you.
So great to be here.
Thanks. So good to see you guys.
Thank you so much, Len. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And it is our pleasure to be here. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the love of the blood. And I want to make a comment that we all have to love ourselves enough to show up. So thank you for loving yourself enough to be here this weekend and open up to this amazing information. Yeah. So one of the things that we get to do with these events is the live blood cell analysis. Dr. Stu, like Len said, is an expert at looking at blood and actually originally went into the research because he wanted to know what the centenarians did. You know, he wanted to go around the world and study people that lived a really long time, look at their blood, you know, to get some good, interesting information. So a live blood cell analysis is an amazing view. It's an amazing tool to view our inner terrain. And one of the things that is important in developing our self-awareness is to have an idea of what's going on the inside as well as the outside. So when we take a picture of that blood, we take one drop of blood, magnify it 1,200 times, we get to see pretty clearly the red blood cells, the white blood cells, their state of health, the plasma they're swimming in. And then it's amazing feedback. It's amazing feedback to look at our own blood on the screen. It's your story. It's our story. It's getting a piece of our inside. So I find it an amazing tool for us to wake up and view what's going on inside, and then we can make choices. How's our lifestyle working for us? Well, it's all right there in the blood. And I would like to introduce my amazing partner, Dr. Stu. And could you please explain to these amazing people here and streaming in some great things about the blood?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay, so it is an amazing... Hold on. Okay, here we go. So it is an amazing process and an amazing tool to work with today's modern technology because we have the ability now to see into great distances into the cosmos. We have the Hubble telescope, which magnifies the things that are far away. But we also have the ability now to look at things on the microscopic level. So with today's modern inventions of civilization, we have wonderful microscopes, and we have the computer, and combined together, it makes it an easy process to actually look into those microscopic levels. So for me, I find it interesting to look as deep into the small things as it is to look into the big things. And it's amazing how much of it relates from the smallest to the largest. Incredible. So we all come to this place of realization that things in our creation have been created under very amazing principles. Principles that support the life in the living and don't support that which aligns to it. It's the natural process. So what I would like to share with you guys today is some of the insights that are being revealed through this technology, okay? And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand those things. They're very basic, and they carry on through all of those levels. So our first slide here is actually a picture that's showing very healthy blood. And if you look at that slide, you'll notice that those are red blood cells that are all holding an amazing charge, have a healthy membrane, they're not sticking together. Those guys are going to have optimal surface area. Now, a red blood cell is very tiny. In a cubic millimeter of blood, 45% of that will be cellular components, 55% of that will be plasma that those cells swim in. And in that cubic millimeter, there's usually about 5 million red blood cells. And those red blood cells will outnumber the white blood cells by many times. Chances are there would only be about 400 to 500 white blood cells in a normal state. So obviously those red blood cells are very important. Now, a single red blood cell would be about 8 microns in diameter. It would be about 2 microns thick. It's actually shaped like a flying saucer. In the middle, it's actually biconcave. That means it concaves in on the top and on the bottom. It goes down to usually about a micron of thickness. That's called a toroid shape. The toroid shape is the shape that gives the maximum surface area for the volume contained. So obviously, one can quite easily assume that it must be very important, that shape, and to have maximum surface area. That's the reason that it's important that they can stand on their own, that they can carry the charge that they were designed to do. With that, they can actually start performing their functions, okay? Now, what is those functions? Here's our modern day microscope. That one there on the left is actually a Zeiss. It's the best that the planet kind of makes, the German technology with the lenses. And we have a modern day laptop computer. This is what is going to do the work. Here, our next slide shows that these cells come from the bone marrow, mostly. Okay, that's where the greatest number come out of. Those cells that travel through your blood They have a life expectancy, and they have duties to perform. The red blood cell, the grandmother being the stem cell, produced by the millions every minute, constantly, 24/7, hopefully, not only live 120 days, but during that life cycle will travel approximately 300 miles in your blood. And what is that red blood cell doing? It is taking the waste products of the cellular metabolism of every cell in your body, mainly carbon dioxide. It picks that carbon dioxide up from the cell, travels from wherever that is in the body to the lungs, knows how to find its way, gets to the lung, lets go of the carbon dioxide, gives it up, and receives the oxygen, pulls the oxygen in, and then it takes it to another cell. And there's high intelligence that's going on, not that we're aware of up here, that's happening within all of us for the life and the living. Now, situations arise, red blood cells lose their charge, and then and other situations causes them to become sticky, causes them to clump together. Now we've lost the surface area. The surface area is now reduced. But not only that, when they're stuck together, on those journeys of those 300 miles, a lot of times they are traveling through tiny capillaries. And they have to travel through single file, those capillaries. They can't come through as a group. Hey, we're coming through. No, we can't get through here. We've got congestion. So it's very important that they be able to stay open. And that was what was interesting with our little tool of grounding that we experimented with on Friday night. We saw how that simple tool, how dramatic it is on helping the red blood cell to hold its charge. Now, that tool alone will not make everything perfect in your blood. Of course not. But it's amazing to help one hold the charge. And that's very important for today's age, because we have a situation going on with civilization today where we've disconnected ourselves from the earth, which helps us to stay grounded, which helps us to hold the charge on the red blood cells and the minerals, that helps us to hold the minerals in our body. So the best thing would be if we got rid of these things that disconnect us from the earth. That would be the optimum, then we wouldn't have to worry about it. But while we're here today, it's a concern. And so these amazing, inexpensive tools are available. And it was very impressive on Friday to see that. Because again, that's going to support the oneself, wherever they are, maintaining that charge, keeping us connected in the living cycle. Now, that's not the only factor, though. There's many factors that are working out in this, and not to make it too complicated, let's keep it simple and look at each little thing and see it in its simplicity. Okay? Now, the white blood cell, on the other hand, another important cellular component of the blood, is our immunity. That's what's going to fight the things that come from the outside of self and take care of that. And it's going to take care of anything that arises from within us. Now, most of us are kind of entrained to be a bit concerned about what's coming in from the outside. Oh no, that person's got the cold and the flu. They're not doing so good. Keep me away from them. Yes, then that's a concern. I understand that. But the bigger concern is what's going on inside us. That's much bigger than what's coming from the outside. Now, yes, if things got real crazy outside of us and nuclear bombs are going off or whatever, the toxic load is intense, then yes, we should be very concerned about that stuff, and we better protect ourselves, or we could be like the other times on the planet of the earth where lots of life has been wiped out. Okay? So yes, we have to be concerned about those things, and I support everything about environmental friendly sustainability, yes. But what we've disconnected from is what arises from within. And this is not only equally, but very more important, because you may not even in your life be in situations that's that dangerous from the outside. But I can assure you that what's happening on the inside is important to all of us in every life. So what happens on the inside? What happens in that plasma? Well, just like our digestive system and its design to digest the food that we bring in from the outside, needs healthy bacteria, friendly bacteria, microbes, to help us in that process. But if we choose a lifestyle, knowingly or unknowingly, that doesn't support that process, then we create unfriendly bacteria. It's going to happen. There's nobody who is protected from that. They've invited that in by the conscious or unconscious choice that they've made of their lifestyle. So, we start creating situations. And the generation that's in this room, we've all been at it. We were born into it. Not that we know of through humanity's doings have we ever created a situation like this before. Okay? So all of us are doing our best, whether it's conscious or unconscious, to manage the situations that we've created. Not only outside, but what we've created inside, and how that outside is affecting the inside. So what I've been gifted with is the ability and the space to be able to look into that, the inside environment, right down to the microscopic level. So a lot of the things that I'm going to show you today, if we put thousands of those things on the palm of your hand, you would not be able to see it with the lenses that we have here. Doesn't mean they don't exist. It's just like if these lenses can't see what the Hubble Space Telescope can see, doesn't mean they don't exist. They might not exist in your reality, but it doesn't mean they don't exist. Thousands on the palm of my hand and I can't see, but I look in with my beautiful microscope and many things are revealed and many insights. So I feel that I actually am standing on the shoulders of great teachers. And I've been gifted with the good teachers. So what I'm actually sharing with you comes from that lineage, okay? And then I take it to the next level. That's my duty. That's what my passion is. That's what I love to do, okay? So if we go back in time a little bit, not that far back, 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, that's just the beginning of when this technology started. Before that, we don't know that that existed, okay? Not that we know of. And the people that came along, of course, they were thought of as kooks and strange and, you know. But, of course, some of that was a little strange and a little off base, but a lot of it was the truth. And it continues to be supported by the life and the living. And that's the stuff that I receive, and I move on with it. Okay? So I want to honor all of those teachers. I feel that they're with us here. Okay.
So our blood is the river of life running through us. And the blood feeds every internal organ in the body, every cell. So if the blood is in a compromised state, we're not able to function optimally. So the good news is there's ways to improve the state of the blood. You know, the liver receives about 3 pints of blood in less than 5 minutes. The liver is the main filter on our insides, responsible for more functions than we're aware of. Totally interconnection, totally interconnected to the other functions in the body. So if we can clean the blood, we can clean the state of the liver. If we can clean the liver, we can clean the state of the blood. So that's the good news.
So here we are. If we look at our slide, we're seeing some red blood cells, we're seeing some platelets, and they're setting out on that journey, that 300-mile journey, traveling through in the river of life. They're going to go do their job.
That way. Okay.
I think we're good. So we're back to some healthy red blood cells. They're a little sticky there. Here they've broken up. Here there's a background that's all dark. And with the technology that I like to use, I like a dark background. They call that ultra dark field. The reason we use that is because with a dark background and lighting up everything that's in that drop, in that plasma, we see everything against that black background. If we had a bright background, we're just going to see contrast. We might miss things. We won't see the things that might be in between some of those cells on the real tiny level. So here we've got the black background and we've got only what's lit up that's there. You notice how dark that is? You notice how beautiful that looks? Here we're getting some things forming in the blood. Little needle-like things. Yes, we're going to continue into the journey. Now, here we've reached a place where there's very sticky blood. Everything's all stuck together. The red blood cells are starting to die. They don't like this. They're turning into raisins instead of being nice and round with nice, healthy membranes. Very misshapen. All right, here's our white blood cells. This is back to the immunity. If that blood becomes overloaded with toxins, if it becomes overloaded with undigested foods, okay, these guys are our backup. If we breathe in or bring in through foods things that our body doesn't like, we call them allergies. Well, what is that? That means our body is recognizing something it doesn't like, it's foreign. We better take care of it. Well, these guys are the police. They're the military. They're even like the FBI and the CIA. They have high intelligence. Some of them might only live a couple of hours, but some of them will live even 20 years or more. The ones that carry the immunity, the ones that recognize the things that we don't want coming in, they live a long time, and they pass that memory on to their children. And then their children will recognize it if it ever comes back to you. Now, the other guys are there as our backup, because if we've got toxins in there, if we've got undigested foods, if we've got heavy metals coming in, these guys are called, like the police. Oh, 911. Bring the military. We've got a problem over there. Those guys go. And they say, hey, you over there, you killer cell, take them out. All right? And these guys get training in different parts of our body. Okay, those lymphocytes, some of them get trained in the thymus, some of them in the spleen. That's where they get their training ground. It's no different than the military or the police academy. They got to go to the academy to get their training, right? And they're police, ready to go. So these guys are all in us. They're our backup when our blood's overloaded. They protect us. They're our immunity. Here's one of the most common white blood cells. It's called a neutrophil or a polyneutrophil. If you look at it, it's got 3 dark holes in it. Let me see if we can get this laser on it. There it is. There's one there, there's one there, there's one there. They're like the brains of the cell. They communicate, you know, like mushrooms and the communication they got going on? That's what these guys got going on. All right? They're inside us. They're working for us 24/7. Sometimes they get overworked. They get tired. They have to go to sleep for a little bit. Then they're back up. They're at it. All right? Here's some more. There's another white blood cell. There he is down here. Here's another type. This is the eosinophil. Here's a lymphocyte. Now, that guy's got a little bit of work. You see those red blood cells there? Let me get the laser on them. You see all those guys? Look at the outside of the membrane of those cells. Doesn't that look a little strange? Yeah. What's going on with those guys? Eh? What's going on with those guys? Okay, the thing that a lot of people don't know is that there is no such thing as sterile blood unless we take that blood out of the animal or the person and we sterilize it. We kill everything. All blood carries a flora, just like your gut does. Carries a flora. Hopefully a healthy flora. So every drop of blood that we've ever analyzed reveals that there's a flora. Okay? And that flora is made up of a very primitive fungus. Just like mushrooms. Fungus. And there's no animal, no plant, no person that we've ever found that doesn't have two primitive funguses. They might have more, but they at least have those two. Now, what are those things? They are the smallest living units that we've been able to see so far. They are either called protids or colloids of life. They've been given a few names. Their big names are Mucorrhizmosis freesin and Aspergillus niger. Okay? And those guys actually are very symbiotic, and they take care of all of the animal life and the fish life and the plant life. And those that are successful in living work with that, the cell that can work with that. So the red blood cells know how to do that perfectly. Okay? But those guys don't always stay in their primitive state. If we provide a medium for them, they are encouraged to evolve. They no longer stay in that small state because they're along with the life and the living too. And they would love to evolve. But if we keep our life in a nice balance, those guys stay primitive and they just are friendly and they take care of us. So those are the friendly guys. And the less evolved they are, the more they stay in that harmonious primitive state, the better our health is. Okay? But there's a process that happens that causes them to evolve, and that's the situation that we create in that plasma through the lifestyle that we chose, consciously or unconsciously. Most of us unconsciously. And most of our generation here, given that situation from birth. Because one thing you want to know is what the mother carries on the microscopic level is given to the infant, the newborn, the child that's developing in the womb, the embryology, the formation is delivered. And not only is that delivered through the blood, through the placenta, even though it's filtering, trying to filter what's in the mom's blood, doing the best it can. Life is arising and growing and developing, hopefully in a beautiful way. But the child has to take some of that on. Okay? And then it's given a lifestyle by the caregivers, which may support keeping things friendly in the blood or may not. So many times we find that even in the young children, especially in cultures that have less than excellent lifestyles, things are already happening very young. Okay? Some children are born into it, and then they take it on day after day in the external world. So let's go back here. We're looking at that membrane. What are we looking at? we're looking at an evolved state already of the microbe now that wants to break out. So this is a situation where there's actually parasitization going on in that red blood cell. And if we left that slide up there long enough, and I kept it on my microscope, and I kept looking, I would actually see them come out. I'd watch them come out. I can't usually do that with each person because you can't really afford me to sit there with you for a few hours and watch that happen. But trust me, it happens. I've kept slides of myself up on the screen for 21 days to see how long my cells would survive, even outside of my body on the slide, not getting any extra nutrition. Sometimes amazing, like long, but sometimes with the wrong lifestyle, with what's going on that day when I took my blood, I'm disconnected, I'm not holding a charge, I'm upset, all of these things are taking the lifespan way down. Now, yes, if they were inside my body, I'd have the chance to recuperate. But I like to see how can they do when they're being tested. It's like, now the exam's on, let's see how are you really doing? And that's been an amazing tool and an amazing teacher. So this is just red blood cells here now that are getting ready to release and allow an evolved state of that fungus. And if it evolves, then it will become bacteria, it will become viruses, it will become parasites that can even grow further in the blood and start attracting other parasitization kind of ideology to itself, including to you from the outside. Okay? Now, the good thing is there is a lymphocyte there. It wants to maybe take care of things. That's nice. What do we got here? This is a chunk of something in the blood. That's a conglomeration of toxins, heavy metals, and fat. And the body, not quite knowing what to do with things because something's not working correctly, just actually takes thousands of those kind of particles and puts them into a big ball in a hope that the body will be able to get it out. What usually happens is that those chunks become lodged. They're microscopic, but they become lodged in the tiny capillaries, and then they block our circulation. And then those parts of the body become reduced and cut off from the life-giving oxygen that gives the energy and the metabolism for the factory-producing mitochondria in our cells, okay? Cut off. And then these things are continuing to grow and eventually block our circulation, okay? And then congestion, hypoxia, reduced lifespan, death, all of those things on those body parts, okay? So I'm going to show you a few pictures of these. This is one here has got a lot of heavy metals. You see how bright they are? You see how the white one's on the outside? And it's interesting how everything tends to, lots of times, coagulate together and they hang out together. It's always amazing to me. To me, it's like, I see analogies like fish tanks. Okay? I see that our body is like a fish tank. And we have something that's going on inside us in a liquid state, the blood. And like the fish tank has fish, well, we have things that are living in us. Now, what happens, anybody who's had fish, if they overfeed them continually, day after day, then you change the whole structure of that water. And if it gets overdone, it doesn't support that fish anymore. It gets sick and it dies. And the sad thing is the fish is actually at the top saying, I want more. Give me more. And it'll actually continue to eat itself even to death if we don't have consciousness, right? And it'll wipe that guy out. Well, the same thing for us. If we overconsume day after day after day, and especially if we put things in, it's like the fish food. Are you putting in high quality fish food or are you putting in poor stuff that's just filler? Make them think that they're full. This will do it a lot quicker, right? But either will do it. So it's not how much can I get. No, it's let's choose the best. Let's use what the body can manage. Let's stop this stuff. Now here, this situation here is heavy metals, toxins, and this here yellow, orange, sometimes it's even red stuff. That's sometimes like old antibiotic therapies that we've taken on that the body doesn't know what to do with those substances, okay? They show up. They show up, and the body doesn't even know how to process some of that stuff. It doesn't quite know what to do. And then like Kim was saying, if you don't have a functioning liver, now what's the deal with the liver? Okay, liver, right? What's the big deal? Well, the liver will actually filter all of the blood in your body every hour. Can you imagine that? Every hour. Most of it actually gets through in about 15, 20, 30 minutes, but some of it that's a bit congested, it's down in the legs. It's not easy for the body to get that back up. It's working with a lot of pressure, okay? Up in the head, the blood flows pretty freely, okay? As we go down the body, gravity is affecting things, okay? There's densities in that blood. There's cellular components. They're going to tend to get down, and we got to have the ability to pump them back up. So usually when circulation gets compromised, that's the first place it shows up, down in the legs. We get varicose veins. We get swollen feet, right? Things are getting congested down there. That's why exercise is so important. That's why we got to keep things moving. That's why we got to have lymph moving. Lymph is receiving waste products too, bringing it to the liver, right? What's the liver doing? The liver is like a sponge. Picture a sponge here, about 3 pounds in size. Big one. Whew, right here. All of the blood is filtering through there every hour. It has cells in it, and it has a design that every particle that is 1/100th of a micron. The red blood cell's 8 microns, okay? But even the tiniest of toxins that you can imagine are designed to be trapped by these cells. They're called Kupffer cells. Kupffer cells. Dr. Kupffer. Anyway, it traps it. At least that's the design, is to trap everything. And then it's designed to squeeze a couple times a month, is the normal, natural process, to excrete that out through the bowel. So in order to do that, we need an open bowel, and we need a functioning sponge. But what we find is that by the time these kids are growing and what they've taken on and what the environment is doing, by the time they get to 10, 12 years old, that liver's not working very good anymore. It's not even filtering very good anymore. It's become fatty. It's become overloaded because of what we're putting in and what we're breathing and what we're doing and not staying charged and not carrying health and vitality to every cell in our body. And then we get situations created. This is one of our situations here, okay? Let's look at some more of these guys. Here's another large symplast. You know, remember, this is the same magnification. So that's a big thing floating around in your blood. These block things up. Look at the color of that one up there. And those red blood cells aren't too happy with that being around it. That's a sclerosymplast. Symplast means to bring things together. Okay? It's a collection. Here's another one. Here's another one. Okay. Here's a uric acid crystal. What's that doing in the blood? Why is that in the plasma? Well, if you overconsume protein, especially protein that's high in purines, the metabolism of that by the liver being responsible for all of the carbohydrate that you take in or drink, all of the protein, and all of the fat, especially the fat, because the liver produces the bile that breaks the fat down. Those are excellent sources of energy, especially when you choose the stuff that's been grown in a clean environment. But if you take in too much of that protein, especially the type, and the biggest one is actually pork. It has the highest level of purines. It doesn't mean it's bad. We just not make a judgment against it. It just means you don't eat much of it or you don't eat it at all. You don't choose that as your source of protein. Because you do need a little protein, but you don't need as much as you think. But if you take in too much and the liver's breaking it down, uric acid is formed. And the body will make these guys. You see that big shiny one? Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. These things get created, okay? And that's what gouty arthritis is all about. You ever, people get crystallizations in your earlobes and your big toes. Things get stiff and sore. That's what that is. Very simple. Goes on the microscopic level. These guys that I showed you are still very microscopic. You can't see them. All of those thousands and thousands of them is what's collecting and then giving the person the pain in their joints. Ooh, yeah. All right, here's an interesting deal. These guys here are called pteroharpins. It's a name they've been given. You see that guy looks like a spear? A sword? Here's another one. Look at that. Look at this one. It might be hard for some of you to see that. That actually looks like a butterfly. Okay, I guess it's over here. Whoop, I went too far. There we go. This one here, eh? Whew. How do those guys get into the body? Pteroharpins. They are an advanced, evolved form of the microbe. Whoa. Whoa. The microbes. You remember the fungus we talked about, the primitive form? The smallest unit of life? Look what it's become. Look what it's become. Whew. What these guys do, they are so smart in their evolvement, and they need to penetrate the red blood cell, or they need to penetrate a cell that the blood is touching. They can puncture it and then receive the nutrients so they can continue to live at their state of being and then evolve even further. That's not the end. That's only part of their evolvement. Okay? Pteroharpins. Puncture it. Amazing what the life in the living will do to survive. Amazing. So there's our butterfly-shaped one. That guy must know how to steer and really get some momentum to get into something good. Eh? Oh, look at this guy. Another pteroharpin. Look at the beauty that guy's got. Advanced form of the fungus. Fungus. Invisible. Here we're back to very congested blood again. All stacked like a roll of coins. Not much surface area there. Chronic states of that create problems for us to stay aligned with the life in the living. Here's another situation where now you're getting the aggregate of platelets occurring. No different than if we talk about the pond. We're not in the fish tank now, we're in a pond. You look along and down on the side, well, look at all that scum. That's all just in a nice form here. Oh, but over there it's beautiful and clear. Same thing in our blood. We got that stuff going on. Parts of that drop of blood will have this stuff. If it's advanced to that place, parts will still be looking clear. That's why it's important that you look through that whole field. Find out what's going on in the real big picture. Okay? I could show you a little part of almost anybody's blood, even the cancer patients, that look not so bad. But then maybe the other 90% of the blood is looking not so good. Well, that drop, we've got billions of those drops in the 5 quarts, 5 liters of blood that we have. It's going on. Okay. This slide here is showing the developmental stage where those microbes that are unfriendly get a chance to grow and develop. This is where they hang out. So we've got some blood cells there. Here's one, here's one. There used to be a couple in there. There's still one there. There's one over there that's fading. But now the microbes are taking over. The fungus are saying, hey, I'm coming out, just like that parasitized red blood cell. I'm coming out. And they're going to have a party. They're going to have like orgies, actually, is what they do. Yeah. Full on. Everything copulates with everything. And if you have a great number of the low valence primitive fungus within you, And an advanced guy decides, I'll copulate with that guy because it just happens in seconds. Boom, 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 boom. They don't have long to live, but they get to recreate in their likeness, just like we do. Our kids look like us, and that goes on. And same with those guys, right? This is the breeding ground for all that to happen when we don't carry the healthy plasma, okay? That's why it's so important that we understand not only do we have to carry health in our gut and our bowel, but we have to carry the health in our blood, right down to that level. Now, there's even therapies where we dose people with the primitive life form. It's the Germans. Germans. They've got that stuff going, okay? Just drops. You can put it on your skin because it goes in through the skin. They put it under your tongue. You can use it as an implant. It gets absorbed into the body. And then it actually brings down the evolved form because the evolved guys got fooled and copulated with a primitive form. And then the children are born more primitive, okay? Another little therapy. But that's not solving the problem. That's treating the symptom, because the real problem is all of that stuff should be cleaned out every day out of your blood if you were functioning the way you were designed and optimally aligned to the life and the living.
Well, the great news is we can clean up the state of our blood. We like the method of liver cleansing. So Dr. Stu is just going to show us a couple more of these pictures as we wrap it up. So because all of the blood gets filtered through the liver, if we can clean the liver, we're going to clean the state of the blood. And cleaning the liver is the way to improve the state of the blood. So there's many easy tools to do this. So if you're concerned about the state of the blood, whether you are or not, cleaning up the liver is going to improve the length of our life and the state of our health.
So as we're closing out, let me show you a couple more quick slides for you guys. This is a parasite in the blood, an evolved form of the fungus. Here's another parasite in the blood. That particular one was 27 screens long. Okay? That came out of a person after a liver flush, cleaning the blood. You see all of the red and the orange in there? That's like old antibiotic therapies and maybe taking birth control pills and pharmaceutical medications. Okay? This is the kind of stuff that we can see. This is the kind of stuff that would form in cancer-type patients. Okay? All blocked up. Crazy. Crazy stuff. But this is an easy solution. You learn how to clean how you clean that sponge back up, how to soften it back up so that it works again, like a sponge should. Okay? You get rid of the hardening in it. You get it functioning like the filter again. And then all of the blood that flows through that liver every minute, every hour, every day becomes clean. And it gets taken back out. So it's not brand new, but it's going to become quite revolutionary, I can assure you, as more and more of us tune into it. As we get the knowledge, as we get the consciousness, we can make our choice. Each of us here is already received that knowledge. You'll all get to make a choice of how you want your terrain to be. Okay?
So let's all love ourselves enough to love our livers in the most excellent way. And if you love more information about that, you can check us out on our website. We're up in the vending area. We're in the back of the room where Dr. Stu is looking at the blood, and we're happy to speak more about liver cleansing. And we want to thank you for listening. Thank you for opening up your minds to take a look at the inside. And we thank all so much for being here. So blessings to you.
Thank
Kim
you.
Stones, Dr. Stuart